I still cannot believe how much those superhero movies sucked. I mean, underlined sucked. I just don't get it. Each superhero franchise has a story that is worth telling, otherwise the comic book would have gone out of print and died off years ago. I guess it's true, some things just work better in print that don't work on film. I mean, how hard is it to really... Wait, what the hell? What the hell was that? Hello? Testing.
Hey, hold on, man. Come on, there are some good ones out there. You're just such a picky bastard. You don't even know which ones are good anymore.
Oh hey, it's Austin from Don't Talk About Movies, right?
Yeah, no one's seen my face. I write my blog entries, but some of us can't afford cameras for video reviews, so yeah, kind of have to go old school.
Have you seen my last few reviews? If you have, there is no way you could stick up for these things. I mean, these movies were like a vice on my balls.
Yeah, speaking of which, can I get my Fantastic Four back sometime soon?
Yeah, they're around here somewhere. Look, I suppose if you're talking about modern day comic book movies, you do have a point. Superhero movies have definitely improved lately. You know, I've always wanted to do a crossover review. Want to do a top 10?
Sure. Here are my top 10 superhero movies / comic book movies.
And mine too. It's a 2-for-1 deal today. Top 10 superhero movies. Let's get started.
Number 10. Blade 2. What I really love about this movie is that it is the most in-depth out of the Blade franchise. Plus, Ron Perlman makes a better bad guy than Luke Goss, who is the main bad guy. Ron Perlman was truly a badass in that, like he is in everything else. And plus, all the fight scenes in that movie were fantastic.
Ooh, so exciting. My number 10 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I put this one low on the list because I realize that it's not for everyone. It does have kind of a limited appeal, but for the people that it does appeal to, it's fun, it's surprisingly well-rounded, and it's actually taken pretty seriously. I mean, about as serious as the title will let it be. But I mean, look at those costumes! They are unbelievable! There's actually real people performing in those things. And Elias Koteas as a hockey mask wearing vigilante? Pfft, sold.
Class is paying 101.
Number 9. The Mask. Hey, it counts. It's based off a Dark Horse comic. The Mask is Jim Carrey's Tommy Boy. Anyone else in the lead role would have fumbled the movie. I mean, who else could you get to play a cartoon than a cartoon man? I still can't tell if the CG is blended into Jim Carrey or if it's the other way around. It's fun and it's energetic, which are traits rarely seen in modern superhero movies. Definitely recommended, but check your brain at the door.
Can't make the scene if you don't have the green. I better make a little stop.
My number 9, Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass is like Quentin Tarantino's version of SpiderMan. That's what it is. A lot of shooting, a lot of blood, a lot of F-bombs, and special props to Chloe Grace Moretz for brilliantly playing a foul-mouthed 10-year-old psychopath hero, and Nicolas Cage not taking himself too seriously for once in a role that was made to be fun, as an Adam West type Batman character.
He should call himself Ass Kick instead.
Number 8, Iron Man. This is the movie that credits Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback. I was always a fan of him, even in his drug days, and he is playing his drug day self as Iron Man. Very tormented, flawed, same time, just super cool and suave and funny. My one complaint about this movie is they should have casted someone else besides the dude to play Ironmonger. He's not bad guy material.
Yeah, and that whole final battle just overall sucked.
No offense, Jeff. I still love you.
Yeah, I can fly.
My number 8, Mystery Men. Mystery Men is my Watchmen because, to me, this is what real superheroes would be like. I mean, the fact of the matter is that there are people that go out there and dress up and go out and fight crime, but they're not glorified, they're not making the front pages. They're a band of poorly equipped losers that get the shit kicked out of them. A lot. That's right, I said it. Mystery Men is more grounded and realistic than Watchmen. Now, if I didn't know any better, I'd say this movie was based off of a Saturday Night Live skit. Its witty and zany nature, and the actors all playing off each other so brilliantly. It's definitely a little quirky, but I say give it a shot.
Do you have a health plan, by the way? Maybe dental, eye?
Next.
Number 7. Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 managed to not only be a good standalone movie, but it managed to be a good superhero movie and one of the better sequels out there, because it does what sequels should do. They build off of the first one rather than just repeating the same formula. Everything it did was much bigger than the first one. The characters face new challenges, the effects are way better, the action set pieces are pretty spectacular, and there's a lot less one-liners. I mean, there are still a lot of silly moments, but it's Sam Raimi. Of course there's going to be some silly, what the hell kind of moments. And Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus is 10 times better than the Green Goblin in the first movie. God, he looks like a rejected Power Ranger villain.
Always willing to sacrifice, weren't you? Always ready, always there when the others needed you.
My number 7, X-Men First Class. This is Matthew Vaughn's second comic book movie. The first was my number 9, Kick-Ass, and he is a revelation to comic book movies in cinema. He nailed X-Men better than Bryan Singer, Brett Ratner, and Gavin Hood. By the way, Gavin, no offense, but X-Men Origins Wolverine was a piece of shit.
And I think calling the Wolverine movie a piece of shit is an insult to the pieces of shit around the world.
Michael Fassbender, you top Ian McKellen as Magneto. I didn't even think that was possible, but I now have a man crush on you. And of course my idol in life, Kevin Bacon. He is incredible as a villain in that movie. Those two stole the movie. Plus the surprise cameo that I don't want to give away for anyone who hasn't seen it. Oh my gosh. To those people who haven't seen it, you are missing out. Get on it.
Killing will not bring you peace. Peace was never an option.
My number 6, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Wait, what?
Not exactly a superhero movie, but hey, it's based on a comic book and it's my list. Back off. So here's the synopsis. Michael Cera is his usual typecast character, an awkward teenager who's stricken in love. However, his main antagonist is not a fat Jonah Hill or Ellen Page not making up her mind about what she wants, or an ex-girlfriend. Actually, ex-girlfriend is kind of an antagonist in the movie. No, it's more 7 evil exes all in old school arcade video game style fights. This movie is nerd heaven.
Yeah, those are some good points. I agree with everything that you're are you transmitting from a bathroom right now?
Oh yeah, production value is kind of low, so
Oh god, I just smelt it. Oh, okay. My number 6 is Iron Man. This movie, by itself, is good. You got good action, you got memorable characters, a story and setting that's topical, and it's still got its little flaws in there too, like I mentioned earlier. The climax is about as intense as a snail hauling ass. But once you throw in Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, this elevates into a great movie. He lifts the whole thing to a whole other level. I mean, he draws your attention to him like a magnet. Without him, this movie is just okay. But if you want to see a performance that vaults a movie over his head and makes it his own, Iron Man is a must-see.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
Number 5. X-Men 2. Just like with Spider-Man 2, X-Men 2 is a movie that really evolves from its predecessor. Not that the first one was bad at all, but this time around, everything is leaps and bounds bigger and better. The writing is vastly improved, the cast is stellar, the themes are familiar but fresh, characters go to whole new places, and the action is way, way better. There's a lot more at risk, which helps to keep the excitement going. And on a personal level, I loved getting to see one of my favorite mutants come to life and immediately establish in the first 5 minutes just how much ass this movie was gonna kick.
Full slide secure.
Number 5, Watchmen. Everybody hated this movie. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people I know did not like Watchmen.
Yeah.
But they don't know what they're talking about. This was a great movie. Had elements of A Clockwork Orange, elements of Blade Runner, elements of The Dark Knight, and they combined it in this brilliant portrayal of superheroes in the fascist state of the 1980s. This movie has amazing special effects, by the way, out to the Academy members. Why in the hell didn't you consider this movie for Best Visual Effects back in 2010? And plus, Jackie Earle Haley, they couldn't have picked anyone else to play Rorschach but him. You, sir, were phenomenal in that role.
Oh, hell yeah. No argument here on that one.
Definitely check that one out if you want a very philosophical and almost mythological, violent masterpiece. Number 4, The Crow. Brandon Lee, sir, you are a god for your portrayal. You were funny, you were dark, you were tragic. Most of all, you were just one badass guy looking for revenge. You were fantastic. The soundtrack in that movie, that's actually the best part. It's not the visuals in the movie, it's not the fight scenes, it's not when Brandon Lee catches that knife between his palms. Although, let's face it, that was actually one of the coolest action scenes in the movie. But it's the soundtrack. Rollins Band, Stone Temple Pilots, 9 Inch Nails. You had some of the best 90s rock bands all piled up together for an awesome soundtrack. Definitely look up the soundtrack on YouTube later, or playlist, or iTunes, or wherever the hell you go to download music.
Each one of these is a life. A life you helped destroy.
My number 4 is Tim Burton's Batman and The Mask of the Phantasm. Having to choose between these two was like trying to pick between my kids, so I just had them tie for 4th place. Is that cheating? Maybe. But if he can have Scott Pilgrim, then I can have a tie. Both of these are classic superhero movies, timeless adventures with everyone's favorite winged avenger. Both movies are delightfully moody, a concept lost on the superhero movies nowadays. But both of them are A+ movies that I think everyone should see.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
Number 3. Blade. Blade is responsible for saving the superhero movie genre. At the time, these were the superhero movies you had to choose from. Spawn, Steel, The Phantom, and... But just as things were looking grim, Blade came out and was a big hit. After that, studios tried out XMen and SpiderMan, all thanks to Blade. It's dark and gritty, vicious and violent, and the story is told almost flawlessly. Blade 2 was good as far as sequels go, but it was just too silly for me. There was just too much comic relief, and they're always watching Powerpuff Girls for some reason. The CG looked really bad, and the action was kinda amateur by comparison. Oh, come on, that kick was a mile away. Yeah, that wasn't a wire at all. And while they're both good, the first Blade is the darker and more serious of the two. And when your subject matter is vampires, for me, I say the darker the better.
Number 3, V for Vendetta. Alan Moore took his name off the credits of his own comic after he found out this movie was being adapted because he was disappointed in From Hell in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Okay, From Hell, it's not as good as the comic, but they're totally different things. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, it was crap. I can't deny that. And V for Vendetta, Alan, give the movie a chance. You would actually be very impressed with how well Natalie Portman played Evelyn and how brilliant Hugo Weaving was as V. And it's so tragic because you want them to end up together. Spoiler alert, guys. Sorry if you haven't seen this movie. You just want them to end up together. You want them to live and have a happy ending. And you want them to overrule the government, blow up the parliament, and get away. Sadly, it doesn't end like that, but this movie is a perfect example of tragedy and superheroes and dystopia all thrown in together in a brilliant masterpiece.
Kill him.
My turn.
My number 2, Sin City. This is one of the movies that got me into movies. I was greatly impressed with the visual effects quality. Robert Rodriguez, Frank Miller, who co-directed this movie based off of his own comic book. Those two and Quentin Tarantino made a masterpiece of a comic book adaptation. The visuals are some of the best visuals I've ever seen in any movie, and plus, Mickey Rourke, he was amazing in his performance. He should have gotten an Oscar nomination for that. I remember when I was at Suncoast and I bought this movie, there was a comic book fan in there. He looked at me and said, finally, a comic book movie done right. I wish I knew that stranger's name, to be honest, so I could agree with him and give a special shout out to him. But anyway, special shout out to the stranger from Suncoast 6 years ago.
Hey, that's me.
My number 2, The Dark Knight. Honestly, this one feels kind of obvious. I mean, of course it was going to be on here. It's a top 10 list of best superhero movies. I mean, are you even really surprised? This is the Batman universe's potential fully realized. How real it feels, how well everything is crafted with such love and respect for the source material is astounding. Even people that aren't into superhero movies could find something to enjoy or to talk about with The Dark Knight, because it redefined the epitome of what a superhero movie can and should be about, and pushed it into a whole new territory. Truthfully, everyone's already said everything that can be said about this, so what else could I add except that everyone should see it at least once.
So what are you proposing?
It's simple. Kill the Batman.
And now, for my number 1, The Dark Knight. This competes with The Departed for my all-time favorite movie. Christopher Nolan made a masterpiece. I remember when this was not nominated for Best Picture, I seriously threw the biggest tantrum. Christian Bale was phenomenal as Batman, and just how darker he got and edgier he got compared to his performance in Batman Begins. I can't end this review without saying how phenomenal Heath Ledger was as Jack Nicholson was my number 1 favorite villain of all time on camera. With his performance as the Joker, Heath Ledger knocked him down quite a few spots. Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale, you two were revelations of the Batman franchise. After you guys made Batman Begins, I had hope for the Batman franchise again. The Dark Knight was made. I could now consider your guys' Batman franchise to be the best superhero franchise ever made.
And here we go.
Alright, I'll share it, but you gotta at least hear me out, okay? And my number 1 superhero movie is... Okay, wait, hang on. Let me explain. Now, I'm not saying that The Incredibles is better than The Dark Knight. You may have heard it, I may be thinking it, and it may be true, but I never said that. The Incredibles does something that very few superhero movies can pull off. It captures the magic of being raised on superheroes. It reignites the fire of reading the latest issue of a comic book, and it celebrates its roots. The Dark Knight's great, but sometimes it's a little too busy celebrating itself. Not to mention it's about 45 minutes too long. This was one of the most believable family dynamics I've ever seen in a movie. The Incredibles has such an amazing cast of characters, I can't think of a single weak link in the whole movie. Every character was interesting, every character was sympathetic and believable. The Dark Knight has some of that going, but it has a few weak links in there. I mean, did anyone really give a shit when Rachel died? And every now and then the dialogue in Dark Knight was very obviously dialogue. It didn't always feel like how people would actually talk. When they talk in The Incredibles, it feels more real, resulting in a more natural flowing narrative. Look, okay, here's my bottom line, here's my point. Everyone has seen The Dark Knight by now, guys. Everyone has heard everything about how wonderful and amazing and spectacular it is. But I'd be willing to bet that if you're watching this right now, you've either never seen The Incredibles, or you saw it once a long time ago and you probably don't even really remember what it was like. The Incredibles is a very fresh experience. That's what makes it different. It has its own identity. And if you don't remember very much about it, that's all the more reason to track down a copy and give it a watch for a fantastically done movie. So it's not like all superhero and comic book movies suck, especially nowadays.
Yeah, and if you had just reviewed maybe once between the 70s and early 90s, I would definitely have to agree with you that comic book movies sucked back then.
Yeah, once they started putting some actual passion and effort into them, the overall quality really improved. So now is definitely a good time to be into comic books.
Yeah, and it's sad that it took movies to get people into comic books to begin with, when it should have taken comic books to get people into comic books.
Yeah, agreed, but at least now the movies have some kind of legitimate merit to them now.
Yeah.
Well, hey, this was fun, man. I mean, I was gonna end the whole superhero theme on a really negative, sour note, but I'm glad you called.
Yeah, and thank you for filming me while I'm doing my business.
Nope, don't need to see that. Whew. Now that was a close call. In a different way. Hopefully he will remember to wash his hands before he eats anything. Alright, well, there you have it, folks. Mine and Austin's top 10 superhero comic book movies. Thank you for watching, and stick around next time because I'll be reviewing... Whoa, what the hell? What's going on? Whoa. Did you feel that? Maybe it's the power trying to come back on.